Hello and welcome to the buildingSMART room session as part of the buildingSMART International Standards Summit Rome 2023. Thank you for joining. My name is Sheila Karailam and I will be your moderator today. Today's session is titled Working Group 2 Guidance for Regulators. Our speakers for this session are Franco, Miguel Azenha, Milena Coccia, Eduardo Toledo Santos and Luis Vargas. This session is scheduled to last 90 minutes with time for some questions at the end. The session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event as soon as possible. Before I hand over to our speakers, I would like to remind you that this is a hybrid event. For the online attendees, your microphones will remain muted for the duration of this session. If you wish to ask any questions, please use the chat box in the control panel. For those in the room, please try to keep noise to a minimum and raise your hand if you wish to make a comment or ask a question. I would also now like to bring your attention that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted and the process for their adoption is transparent, and standards that are developed do not favour any particular provider and are open, non-binding and accessible to all. And please take note of the Antitrust Code of Conduct, which is up on the screen. And on that note, I will hand over to Franco.
Thank you, Sheila. Good afternoon, everyone, and yes, good morning or good evening to the people that is connected through the internet. Okay, the session is it over? Okay, this is the third session of Regulatory Room, third and last. But actually, this day we had during this summit we have a real fil rouge of about regulatory that passed also through other rooms sessions, like the one about the sustainability, the law at BIM sessions, and also, of course, the very interesting session about what's going on in Finland in these days and their decision of using IFC for digital building permitting. The agenda is the first session is me, and the other two speakers, Eduardo Toledo Santos and Luis Vargas, send a video because they are not here and they are from very interesting. But I wanted them in this session because they come from Latin America. That is a very interesting continent in terms of regulatory in this moment, in my opinion. And Nick, in case you can correct me, but then we have the speech from Milena. So she is a public asset director in the municipality of Ascoli Piceno here in Italy. That is trying to make a very hard experiment of using BIM in digital building permitting, and this activity is included in the project. This European project is called Check, where Miguel Azenha, the other speaker, is strongly involved. They will talk about training and digital permitting. Okay, this first part, I hope to take it short enough, is why do we need guidance for regulators? In case we have a discussion panel at the end of the presentation, we can also anticipate some questions if you have during that part of the speech. So, some times ago in the regulatory steering committee, we asked ourselves if it makes sense to create a guidance for digital building permitting dedicated to regulators. We did in 2021 a survey in 53 countries. We found that 75% of professionals declared that they are interested in or involved in somehow using OpenBIM for regulatory affairs, for regulatory processes. But in this first quarter of this year, we have 3 events that, in my opinion, are very showing the acceleration of this process. We have a new procurement law in Brazil, and that's why Eduardo at the end will present the situation there. We had a very important speech during RR1, during the session one, about what is happening in Japan, that decided to use IFC as selected for beam building confirmation trial in that, and this is both of these, Brazil and Japan, are big countries that are involved in, but also Miguel told us, and we'll present this at the end, what's happening in Portugal, and I think that it's better you talk about your situation than I. So the tide is rising for open beam, and the first question we asked ourselves, it's natural, because the Earth is not flat, it is three-dimensional. So why people don't want to use a three-dimensional tool for approving the models of the buildings and so on? But as we can see, this is a very simple answer, and of course it's stupid. And I hope that at the end of presentation we will add an idea of why this is so stupid. Okay, the first thing to say is that sometimes there is a little confusion between using BIM in regulatory and digital building permitting. But actually, this is the position that we have, is that the building permitting is the stream that pushes the rise of open BIM, the open BIM tide, and because it answered the request for independence, accuracy, veracity in the process. There are many issues related to complexity and so on that has to be solved, but the story is going forward. And at the end, we understood between the lines that the regulator's secret desire is to reach as soon as possible an automatic checking, because this is not this is what they really want and what they really ask actually in their mind, maybe in their dreams, and sometimes in their minds to this process. The photo was about Rio de Janeiro, so what's better to introduce Eduardo Toledo Santos. Is the board member of CIB, International Council for Research and Innovation in Building, and this is an assistant professor in the University of São Paulo, but is especially a man that knows a lot of stuff about what's going on in Brazil. So please, if you, I'd like to send this video.
And I will present a digital building permit system, a case in a Brazilian city. But before that, let me give you some context of BIM in Brazil. In 2004, started the first BIM implementations in our country. In 2009, we started the BIM Standards Committee, which produced several important BIM standards, like the Brazilian version of ISO 19650 that we published last year. In 2018, it was launched the Federal BIM Dissemination Strategy. In 2020, we got our first federal BIM mandate for public works, which included a roadmap of implementation. In 2020, we founded the BIM Forum Brazil, an important institution for disseminating the BIM in Brazil. In 2021, the Salvador City launched its BIM-based permit process that we'll be detailing next. And this year, next month, will be a new public procurement law that establishes BIM as the preferred method for design and construction. So we're gonna see many changes this year, and also we expect to establish our Brazilian buildingSMART chapter also this year. So this digital building permit systems was developed during a 4-year process in Salvador, which is a city in the north of Brazil, northeast of Brazil. They started from a paper-based system to a CAD system and then to a BIM system. The first step was revision of all the outdated laws and permitting regulations so that they can use an automated code checking system. The system that is now in place is only for high-rise residential buildings. It's an IFC-based system. The results were very good. They dropped from an average of 540 days to only 60 days for getting a permit for a building like that. The system is linked to a GIS database they extract around 100 parameters from this GIS system, and also from the BIM model 213 parameters, permitting parameters are derived. Another piece of the system is this so-called the Metropolis viewer, which is besides being an IFC viewer, the system has features for calculating these parameters, like several kinds of areas, heights, distances that are needed for the permitting process, so that the user can check all these parameters before submitting the model to the city for starting the permission process. They have several documentation items, more than 100-page manual, and a series of videos instructing the user how to prepare the BIM model for this process. If you want more information, there are these links. And thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eduardo. I think you are connected somewhere, but in the end. Okay. How Open BIM grows in regulatory? This was a question that we asked ourselves in the regulatory room. We have a good position to check how the things are happening around the world. But of course, we need your help to know more about what's happening. But more or less, we consider that people think to follow the explorers. And so you see everybody in the high attendance during the finish at the finish session has been a proof that this is a good way to approach the stuff. But we also have to say that listening to these people, listening to the Estonian guys, to the people in Singapore, or the people from Dubai and the Finnish too, we say that not every time the first way the trailblazer is doing is finding the right path. And one other stuff is that sometimes we were considering this in Italy, seeing what happened in Finland, and say that probably that path is not so fitting not so well to our terrain. And this picture is very perfect because I was rescued 5 minutes later by an helicopter. So this is. So it's a good idea of that, not the first.
Not the right path.
Yes, it was not the right path actually. Okay. More or less, we at the end of already reached this conclusion that pilot projects in limited, well-controlled environments is one way. Many, as like the one we see in Brazil or in many cities around the world, is a typical process by which a nation, let's see this from a national point of view, approach the problem, the use of BIM regulator, but this optionally created worries about the scaling capabilities. The other way is many countries are asking for a mandatory IFC files providing in building approval documentation, but sometimes this is not so clear how they are going to be used, and there is an Italian report about this. The collected data quality changes a lot, especially if you have a lot of municipalities, and each one of them has a different, some kind different law for building approval. So the question was, could help a global guidance for regulators. The process was during our reports, our discussion, our open houses, most of reported regulators' worries are changes in organization. And they were asking us, can you settle a basic direction for how to do this? On the other side, the concern is that there are so many differences in legislation among countries, and this looks hard. The other pros is that this document could provide a template to support national chapters for guideline edition and solve the many differences in legislation among countries. But the cons, that the discussion was, there are so many open beam guidelines in building industry. Why the regulators can't use them like the rest of the industry? And but this, we know that is not working this way. We know that regulators have problems and requirements are so different. And we also discovered this during our regulatory information requirement project, that is the core project of a regulatory room in this moment. And we think that this document can provide a kind of high-level idea of how to use this process, the requirements that are coming, the output of this project. But on the other side, we know that the regulatory segmentation is complex and is hard to reach out, each of them. At the end, on October, we decided to go. We created an activity request, and it was approved. And we started to this work. The guidance is a part of our engagement flow in our roadmap, and it's good because it can be related a little bit with the RIR project, but especially because it's related to the creation of a guidance specific for the real implementation of the open beaming regulatory that is in one of the goals of our room of buildingSMART. The document scope statement was to create a clear and narrative text answering major questions, and to fill it with a lot of examples and illustration from around the world of ideas in use, so that instead of having a single path, having many trial paths to follow. The project will, this is the schedule, we should have, we are confident in having a draft document for the Lillestrøm summit next October. And then we have some activities I will explain a little bit better in the following. Of course, we also needed to have an approved document, and for this, the team is composed is a very good team, very international, 31 members, and also the distribution in roles is perfect in my opinion. 30% regulators, 30% from the industry, and 30% from law. Also, we have a good number of lawyers. That is very important in writing this document, in our opinion. We discussed about the targets, because I told you in public service, regulatory bodies, there are many segments. There are the politicians, we call kind of stakeholders, the functionaries, that is the mid-management and the operation management, that are technical people, that probably is the one that understand more of what we do. And the guidance structure is having executive summary, some core topics in the middle, and the links and attachment. The idea is to focus our core topics in something that can, let's say, speak to functionaries, to the mid-management. Why? Because during the survey report, we gathered that there are people that is already, let's say, ready in the public sector for this transition, but probably they have some problem. There are people from young, for having knowledge about the BIM and the digitalization, but they have some problem to talk with their boss. And so we hope that this document will help them in doing this. What's a counter? We have also a content management strategy. The first, of course, is gathering some information. We have collected some published guidelines. So we also have a very good contribution from some members of the teams that they create a document that is just collecting all the situation, the main situation they have in their country. In 2020, this is what we did during last year. In this year, we are going to publish the standard guidance, we hope in English, and then to translate it, or other than producing other media like videos and so on. Translation is very important. This is another stuff we learned during the survey. When you're talking about regulatory, if you create a document, it's very, very important to translate it in the different languages, in other countries' languages, so they can compare it with the national laws, of course, that are not written in English usually. And the other stuff is that this project, this document will be a seed, but the real harvest, in our opinion, is the national guidance that are made by the national buildingSMART national chapters that will, in our idea, collect the indications that are coming from that specific jurisdiction, that specific legislation. Okay, just to understand something, I hope this, I cross fingers, this is going to work, because we have a video from Luis Vargas, is a consultant in Central America. He talks about Panama, but he knows a lot about the countries that are placed there. Hope that the video will start, because we had some
I'm going to talk a little about digitalization in Panama and the digital building permit situation in our country. It is important to understand the context. Different laws that promote digitalization have emerged in Panama, including Law 144 of April 15, 2020, which modifies and adds to Law 83 of 2012 on the use of electronic media for government procedures. It is part of the 125 priority actions of the President of the Republic, Laurentino Cortizo, specifically in Priority Action Number 4, Digital Panama, which seeks to significantly reduce excessive red tape in government processes. Two institutions ensure compliance with these laws: the National Authority for Government Innovation and the Directorates of Innovation and Technological Transformation. Each institution must create a directorate in coordination with the Ministry of Economy and Finance and the National Authority for Government Innovation. These directorates will be in charge, among other functions, of the formulations of the Progressive Simplification Plan. There are also articles that indicate fines for non-compliance for the public servant responsible for having committed faults or infractions or offense related to Law 83 of up to 30% of the gross monthly salary earned. Law 153 of May 8, 2021 is also created, which in the Article 49 talks about the digital modeling of public works. The contracting entities must promote, incorporate, and progressively impose the use of systems for the digital modeling of information in the contractor selection procedures that involve the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of public works. In the image, the Panama Line 3, Metro Line 3 will request BIM scopes in the statement of objections. In terms of regulatory process, the Municipality of Panama has been working since 2019 to optimize its process. Mayoral Decree number 037/2019 is created, wherein it is proposed to update the process and revision of the digital file of preliminary projects, construction plans, and all permits related to construction in the municipality of Panama, according to the existing technological advances in the single window of the municipality of Panama. The single window brings together in one place all those involved in the generation of approvals. It is coordinated by the Municipal Department of Works and Construction. The decree proposed digitizing process, generating real-time monitoring for taxpayers, granting documentation support through a digitally stored database, real-time online monitoring of the application process, elimination of discretion of the approval officer through the use of guides and checklists, among others. This image shows the different institutions responsible for approvals and that are part of the single window, such as the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Public Works, the Fire Department, and Transit and Land Transportation Authority, among others. The website of the Work and Construction Department of the Municipality of Panama houses the digital registry of plans and the various inherent digital permits. Progress has been made through the approval of plans. The constructions and occupancy permits are totally digital. Preliminary projects are submitted and approved in a totally digital way in the platform. Auto construction documents are required in PDF form. They are still delivered in paper form. The follow-up, verification, and corrections are followed through the platform with the respective barcodes, but the plans are still necessary to make corrections. Different measures were taken to improve the time taken to review drawings, such as the implementation of checklists. 2 review routes were established according to the categories of the projects. The launch of the digital registration of projects and digital registration of miscellaneous projects established a review order and guarantees the monitoring of the analyst performance and at the same time generates transparency and trust. In the image, you can see the average number of days for the question of approval comparing the years 2016 and 2020. The first digital signature of plan was carried out 9 months ago, so moving towards the review through PDF is very close. The implementation of checklists in each of the different departments and institutions involved as achieved efficiency and lowered the discretionality of the approval officers. It is understood that the quality of the model is essential in order to achieve an efficient regulatory process in the near future. The Bank Forum of Panama is working on the conformation of the Technical Council that will implement the norm and process. Data standards and object-oriented interventions will include classification standard, model standards, national standard, international standard, in addition to a standardized route of work in conjunction with the academy and professional societies. The Forum of Panama, created in 2015, is a permanent technical council which brings together the main professionals and institutions, including the academy related to building information model in our country. Progress is made in dissemination, standardization, and adoption of various standards and scopes, such as process, data, object-oriented information, etc. Thank you.
Okay, this while I wait my slides, I'm very happy to have these contributions from different countries, because it's not a secondary value, but we can say a side value of the writing, the guidance that is to explore in some details what is going on in the world, not only watching as let's say the best country, the best in the best in breed countries, and so we have this opportunity also to understand which kind of problems every single regulators has in his country, and what we can classify them together and say, okay, for example, when we talk about letting, let's say, style legislation, we see that some things has to be written or have to be modeled in a different way. Okay, so let's talk about the core topics. This is actually the table of contents of the guidance. We have, of course, an introduction because, as we said, the document is not targeted only to people that knows what BIM is, what a GIS is, and so on. Of course, we have the second chapter is about the why OpenBIM helps the regulatory process. So we talk about regulators, standards, automated checks. What are the advantages you can have from the application of BIM? Then we have two chapters that are a little bit the core of the core, let's say. It's about one is about laws and regulations. We found that in some of this guidance there is nothing about laws. Some of them are completely dedicated to a legal point of view. I think that from a global point of view, we have to at least focus which are the points where every regulators have to focus on during the creating of a project of taking of digital building permit of using use of IFC, but also give them for each one of these chapters examples of how is being solved somewhere else. Data and documents, of course, are essential. We have a fantastic session today with the law at BIM about what's the meaning of data and what the meaning of a document for this process. And I don't want to repeat them, of course. And then we have also in the last chapter about the process of transformation, about the change management, the relations with the industry that are so important, and some training and support that my colleagues will talk about. The guidance table of contents is inspired but doesn't follow rigorously. No, what's the word? Impossible for an Italian. 12911, ISO 12911, because we are focused on document editing and on the communication in this document. And I also want to say thank you to our editorial teams that are the part of the team that is actually working in the edition. And so thank you, Miguel, and Eduardo, and Luis. This is the part that we discuss every time with the whole team about the principle that will inspire the guidance. Of course, we had a focus on global view, but treasure of local experience and projects. So we want to put in every single chapter the experience at the beginning of the chapter, and then explain what are that examples related to. Clarify OpenBIM regulator is a stepwise approach and not a disruptive replacement. This is very important. It's important to talk about the history of OpenBIM, just to make the regulators understand that it's not something like the very, very last digital shot that is coming from a group of start-uppers. Deal with this is something that came from the Singapore experience. They say to deal a lot about business readiness for digital building permitting, not only about the regulatory readiness. Of course, pay attention to any formal or legal aspect. We say that the most significant legal question is IFC file as a legal document. Many evidence of security or IP and so on can probably be solved just saying that you can use the paper, the same approach you have for paper documents. But in my opinion, we have a lot to learn from other regulated environments that have been digitalized in the past. Okay, and look for a digital solution for rules, actually fulfill it, but don't try to find a digital solution for legal or structural problems not solved by actual procedures. This is a law of, this is the only way to survive, in my opinion, when you approach this kind of projects. This morning. So, but for example, we can also give some good example, like what happened in Korea, where they had a problem that the document at the end has to be signed manually, and no way to change that law. So what they did is to add a fixed part of software that prints the document that has to be printed, and this is under control of a regulatory body. So no one can change what's happening there, well, changing in the software, and they solve it in this way with a certified software, their problem. So look for solutions. Focus on advantage for organization coming from data standards, but Milena will explain a little bit about, talk about this. And okay, this is very interesting, and this is the answer of the previous stupid question, is that work on the deep in changing mindset and perception requested to regulators and industry to switch from a 2D model to a 3D model. It's not natural to use a 3D model, it's not. As it's not natural to use a 2D model. I think that one of the problems in building industry that we are so late in digitalization is that, as a matter of fact, a building is the fantastic database. If you want to know what's the width of a door, you go there and measure it. After 20th century, after so much time. So this is something that we have to consider in our business every time, every day, and we hope that we'll be able to solve or to discuss actually in a convincing way in our guidelines. If there are any experts from regulatory here, please raise your hand, because we are looking for experts. Of course, we don't ask you to write the guidance, but just to read it and to help us in considering if it's good, how it works, and this is how if it fits our goals. Milena, the only problem is that you say, but Milena, she is in the panel and she is here, so that's we will also ask you to talk, and please, that's all. Follow us, and if you want to contact us, there is an address is regulatory@buildingSMART.org. Please write us and join the team. Thank you. Is there any question about anything? Okay. We can, please.
No, I just want to say how fantastic the work you're doing is, and everything that's happened during this summit suggests that you must work harder and quicker, because so many people are now interested. I think when we finally produce it, it will sell like hotcake.
No, actually, when we started, you remember, maybe Nick, we think and say, okay, we made a general guidance. There are so many guidance we can use that kind of very, very old artificial intelligence called the copy and paste can help us in making a document, you know, taking like a student some pieces from here and there. Actually, as soon as we started to meet with the team, we feel the responsibility of such a guidance, because anyway, you're saying that this is better than that, and in this position, and you are the global guidance that say this. So that's the reason why we are so worried about having people that will discuss the document, that will help us in making it the more acceptable as possible from a regulator point of view. We don't want to make the classical, let's say, nerd document that say, oh, fantastic, this way just 3D is better than 2D or so on. So please help us, and we're a little worried about, but we are working hard. Okay, I will now leave the token to Milena, and
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Milena, and I thank buildingSMART International and
sorry,
me.
Engineer Milena Coccia, because she's a friend, but
Okay. I thank buildingSMART and IBIMI and Franco for having me here, because I'm part of the public administration, the typical Italian public administration. And first of all, I want to ask you to be patient with me, because I have a 5 words English. So I have to use 5 words to express everything. So I need your smile, your patience, and follow my hands, because they speak English better than me, okay? So, you know, Italians speak with the hands. Okay, this is the first part. Okay, I want to tell you who I am, because it's important to tell how is my view, my point of view now, and how it was in the past. Because now I work in a public administration, sorry, I got a cold. And it's the municipality of Ascoli Piceno in a middle province of Italy, so really, really representative. We were speaking about the scale factor. But in the past, I deal with public works now, so construction and public constructions. But now, in the past, I was a manager of city planning and building permits manager in another very typical small, medium town in Italy. But before, I was a captain in the Arma dei Carabinieri, so I was a military in the defense ministry. So I have also, you know, a local view, but also a central administration view. And I started my career in a construction company, very important at the time. So, and it was related with bridges and infrastructure, highway and railways. And at the beginning, I was a designer. So my experience is very, I had several points of view till now. And this is quite rare in the public administration, because usually in Italy, you follow, since you are a child, you follow the public administration that is safe, secure, and a good salary, no? But no, it's not that for me. So I had different experience. I know that you don't trust me. This is me when I was a captain, okay? So, no, I was nice. Huh? No, just to tell you, I'm not a crazy one, but I did different kind of things. So Franco told us how to write the guidelines, why, and what to do in this path. I want to express why you should speak to us, so to the regulators, because municipalities in Italy are the major part of the regulators, because we have, of course, the central administration that are very, I would say, that are ahead compared with us, but the real proximity policies are made by the municipalities, at least in the Italian context. I don't know, and in the other environments. And then why the public administration that we call PA? Because we manage tenders, public works, and we manage the building permits release. And all is concentrated in the public administration, local public administration, in particular municipality. So for the Italian environment, the municipalities are very important to change the view, to change the environment, and to introduce really the mentality of the open beam. Because first of all, we have as public administration to understand why it is so important, to where it's going to lead us, and then so we can follow the guidance, to follow the laws, and so on. And then follow also the designs, the firms, and the companies. Otherwise, we will always be a step aside from the market and from this environment like we are today. Okay, this is why we are a majority of regulators in Italy. Look at the difference in our country. You can see that I would say that the 23% about it's the blue number in the table. The population lives in cities that are between 20,000 to 60,000 inhabitants, and the majority of the municipalities has less than 10,000 inhabitants. That means that we have in those cities and municipalities 1 or 2 technicians. Usually they have now more than 60 years. And so it's really a big impact to speak about open beam and everything, or building permits processes, when you speak to these kind of regulators. So that's why we need the guidance. We need just to speak and to start to speak, to start to understand. And that's why it's so important, this regulatory room. And I'm an optimist, you can see, no? And I need your smiles. So, but this is the Italian reality. So you need us to improve the process of open beam enhancing. This is another question. We manage tenders. So public works in Italy, for the major part, are made, and also for the the funding, next generation EU, the big amount of funding that the European community gave after the COVID period. So the municipalities are the biggest tenders in Italy. But we are small, so it's really difficult to do that tenders with open bill requirements and to tenders good ones. So it's difficult for us to prepare a tender in a best way, to choose the best partner to do public works. This data tell us that in 2022, 20% of the tenders about architectural engineer services were on beam-based, okay? But the 20% was the 50% for the amount. So that means that we are an improvement, a big improvement in tenders and requiring for open beam in tenders. But the problem is the other scheme that says that half the tenders were made by central administration. That's why they are so big and they represent half the market, but not from the municipalities. But we are the ones that has the major part of the funding. So that's an issue. And we or as buildingSMART, but as a regulatory room, we have to speak to us, no? To the public administration. Municipality made 22% of the tenders last year. So it's still too short, a too small part of the tenders in the Italian market. And we are important also, I told you before, because we release building permits, and so this is the focus topic. And because if you are a private person or an economic operator like a firm, an industry, and you want to build something or to restore or to improve something in our territory, you have to pass from the unique desk that are for activity products we call SUAP, or for private and SUE. So we have these two desks in 80,000 municipalities. So if you have to build something wherever in Italy, you have to pass from the municipalities. Also, the municipalities of 200 inhabitants that has just one technician in common with other 10 municipalities. So if you are a firm and you want to present a building permit in BIM, you have to impact with this kind of actual organization of our national law. That's why it's so important to speak to us, and it's important that all the municipalities all together think about the change manager of the Open BIM for building permits. It's really important to speak to us. And so what is the idea? For me, it's really clear where we are going, because we have, in one hand, we have public works, and we start to ask public works in BIM. So we will have a lot, after also the next generation EU, we will have a lot of public buildings that are already in BIM and Open BIM, of course. Then, on the other hand, we have all the private data that come from the digital building permits. All those data will come to us, to the municipality. So we can collect them and put on our city model, because we are the unique one that can collect all of them, and this for each piece of our country. So this is the revolution. We can speak about the ministry, we can speak about regions, we can speak about provinces, but the real data will be managed by us. So we have to improve, and we have to be ready to this revolution, or at least the transition to Open BIM. That's the only key that I see. Just because I was working in a ministry, and then I was working in a construction company, I was a designer when I was young and thin, because I was thin, believe me, and I need your smile, come on. We are in Italy. And it was a joke, that one about the thing. So you have to speak with us, and that's important. So, you know, I should do policy, a politician, okay. And, and so we will be the ones that manage all this data, and that's really important. So I want to speak about the local experience. Franco told before us, told that it's important to speak about local experience and to understand how they are scalable. So maybe you can follow one, and then to be scalable, but also copied by other municipalities or other countries, maybe. So Ascoli Piceno is in the middle of Italy. It's 200 kilometers from Rome, just on the Adriatic Sea. You see the spot is in the Marche region, and you know, Marche region is one of the Mancini region. The Mancini is the Mister of the Italian national of football. Maybe you know better him than us. And Ascoli Piceno is a capital province and has 46,000 inhabitants. So it's really in the middle of the table before we saw before. We are really fitted for be a scalable example for the Italian institution and municipalities. We have a lot of heritage, of course, nature and historical stuff come, and we hit very well. And so this our BIM transition, and I can tell you that it's really an hard work for us, is in these two lines. We have BIM public works, and especially we have a big amount of funding coming from Next Generation EU. And then we have an extraordinary experience in an international project that is called CHEC, and Miguel is a very high-level partner. And it's an Horizon funding, and it's on digital building permits process. So, sorry. CHEC, that is Change Toolkit for Digital Building Permits. We are part of the international consortium of 19 subjects, and we are 4 municipalities from Italy, just Ascoli Piceno. And it's really important for us because we are focused the idea of that Franco said before, and all the topics that we spoke about will be dealt by the guidance. So I can tell you our experience as a municipality, then Miguel will speak very better about the Czech project. So what we expect? Well, we expect, first of all, the improvement in building permit process because we will have less interpretation of the rule, because if we can have machine-readable rules, our lawyer will be on crash, I think. We will have less time to study a project, so our employee will be released by a very heavy job day by day. We will have precision, and we will also, I would say, I didn't write, but we will have also a release in terms of cash flow, because you know that you have to pay for having a building permits, and the more is long the process, the less the municipality gets money. So it's also an improvement in cash flow. We expect an internal technical growth because we need, and of course we know that this will mean in local BIM culture spread. So if we are the first to start, also the designer will come ahead. Then how much we suffer, I have to tell you the truth. Today, for instance, I'm on vacation because I'm on holidays, because my administration is not really completely on the topic. And so the most difficult is for the policy maker and the politicians to understand what is going around and what is this technical improvement and what we will get in the future. But I'm here. Of course, we suffer the language issues. You know, no? You are looking at my hands, so language issues is a problem. That's why Franco told about translation of the guidance. And we have an enormous, I would say, complexity of the Italian legislation, because, for instance, each municipality has a building code, a local one. So it's incredible, no? But we have around 8,000 municipalities. So we need to put on this model and these processes potentially 8,000 type of requirements, legal and geometrical requirements. So this is a big issue. And then we have a technological gap, of course. 2 years ago, when I started working in Ascoli Piceno, I even have not a CAD on my computer. And already we have a few employees on work on it. So it's a really a big issue and a big, I would say, involvement from us. Then how much we like, because we have also, I told you I'm optimist, so we like this project because it is international experience, because we are the unique Italian municipality to work on it, and we really strongly believe in it. And Czech will give us an instrument to do building permits process to improve and to make us having all those data in OpenBIM. And then we have a different kind of job. So we are doing a sort of research compared with the day-by-day bureaucracy that we carry on all the day. But then, on the other hand, we have also BIM public works. So, for instance, we got in total 90 million euros for investment from Europe. And it's called the PINQUA, that is a Quality of Life program, national program. So we are going to change our city, because we will change the city center, restoring 11 buildings, and we will do social housing, we will do research hub, we will build a fair trade hotel, a local food shop and a restaurant that will be ragazzi down. the restaurants with guys that has some that has some inability. Disabled. Okay, the restaurant will be for young people with disability. Okay, and we have the opportunity probably to invest in our city model that now is just only a basic GIS. And the other investment is on the suburbs, always social housing, music, the theater, and parks, natural. So we have a lot of money, and the next generation EU will end in 2026. So our town will be regenerated, if it's correct. Okay, and we will have a lot of BIM data. So without a policy, it's useless to have all this data. And how much we suffer in this project? Of course, the next generation EU has a big complexity to carry on. We have lack of employees and high workload, of course. And also the market in Italy is already full because we have two ongoing market for the firm and companies. We have the earthquake reconstruction because we were in the crater of the 2016 earthquake. So all our city are already, and companies are already busy with the reconstruction and also with the national measure on eco and seismic improvement of the heritage. So it's a big amount of work for everyone. It's a special but also terrible period here. And of course we have technological gap in that way. But we will have BIM project and data for future maintenance for construction site management experience, internal technical growth, and of course local BIM culture spread. That this is it's really the result that's important for us. Okay, I'm going to finish. So in order to carry on the challenge of our BIM transition, we need guideline on Open BIM because we have all these digital building permits, we have building public works in BIM, but we have to understand how to deal with them, how to ask for in a correct way to have them and to use them for our needs. That the needs, what are? We speak about only data, but I want to reflect with you because data for us are safety, planning, our emergency planning, our public safety, our unpermitted building control. Probably in your country is not like in our, but we have a lot of unfitted buildings that are also dangerous. And in the earthquake, we saw that under those buildings that were not permitted, people died. So with all this data, it's not only a question of technology. For the municipality, it's a question of planning, planning safety, planning the hydrological or geological safety. Sometimes I think you heard about some crash or problems in Italy in that topic, in that environment. So we are full of expectative from this kind of changing. And of course, the red line is knowledge. So for us, data is knowledge, and then landscape, and then environment, and then safety, because we are the proximity authorities, no? The policy of proximity. So we have to care about our landscape, our environment, and the safety of all the citizens. And this happens at the level of municipalities. So what I want to tell you is that it's not only technology, but is our future life. And I thank you to give us a hand and support in this way. Okay, thank you. So my hands speak well.
Thank you, Milena. I will vote for you when you're going to politics. And now least but not last, Miguel Azenha. I'm sorry, Professor Miguel Azenha. Is it the right way? Because we are working so hard together that we think that we are more friends than colleagues. That's how it works. Please.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, by the way, and a pleasure to be participating in the regulatory room. I think we're addressing so much important challenges. So to start with, I would like to first present myself. So I actually am an academic. So in here, I'm used to being in conferences and everyone be academics. So for me, it's a different ecosystem. I hope I don't do badly. And I will try to be as practical as possible. I belong to the University of Minho, which is the logo you see on the left-hand side, and to research unit ISIS, not to confuse with ISIS, because we had no relation whatsoever. We were there before they become known in the world. And we are part of the Czech project that has been spoken about already, so I won't go into too many details. And finally, last but not least, we are representing buildingSMART Portugal, which is the recently created chapter last year. So on that account, I'm really happy to be here as well. So I'm going to speak about two important aspects that were challenged by Franco. Training in OpenBIM and implementing digital building permits. I'm actually doing it the other way around. I will start by implementing digital building permits and talk to you a little bit about what's happening in the Czech project and how we are operating in that context, particularly with the municipalities that, as Milena said, there are 4 municipalities, so it's Ascoli Piceno in Italy, but then we have also Prague in the Czechia, and in Portugal, we have 2 municipalities, Lisbon and Vila Nova de Gaia. So these are representative of different sizes and different ways of operating. And one of the big concerns I'm going to speak about is scalability. So, but we are going back there. But before starting, I have to acknowledge the co-authors of this presentation. So we are involved in a much larger team, which is the Czech project, but our team at the University of Minho, particularly at our small research cluster, which is called DICE cluster. We have our own website to disseminate our activities, but I have to acknowledge the co-leadership of José Grange, who is there with me, and we have been operating for 4 years. I was making the maths, and we have been operating on digital building permits for the last 4 years. And so we have a very stable knowledge about this. And finally, we have an extra important part here, which is Bruno Muniz. Is he has a scholarship working in the scope of the Czech project. And normally, when you are dreaming how the world should be, when you have an excellent dreamer together with you, Bruno is an excellent dreamer, we have our job so much easier. Okay, so we have an amazing dreamer. And we are all dreamers ourselves, yeah. So I will, as I promised, I will divide my speech into these 2 parts. So without further ado, I'll go into implementing digital building permits. And you have a scheme that is very classical of whenever you speak about digital building permits. So we are at the buildingSMART Summit, so of course we are using open formats. We are in a project where the Open Geospatial Consortium is a member, and of course we are also using open formats for the CT@GML process in the Geographical Information Systems as well. And we are creating things in a way, as I said before, I will keep repeating this, that is scalable, but at the same time, that is not a burden for the designers. So designers will not notice a change in the way they are submitting things in their IFC, and they will have clear informations on how to do it. So, of course, we can guarantee that more at the national level in Portugal, but within the entire project, we will work in that direction. For example, we are well aware of the connected data dictionaries that are being created in the entire Europe, so the requirements for information for the municipality will be connected to these data dictionaries. We are well aware of the IDS, Information Delivery Specification, so verifications will be based on that. So we are taking all that into account, and we are also, I'm speaking here about a prototype. So what I'm speaking is not the final product of the project, because this will be a professional grade product, but at the university, we are doing the entire project within the university at the same time. And this prototype will be open source and available to everyone. So anyone that wants to scale based on a community-based effort will be possible to use, but the project will also create a set of microservices that people can use through APIs. to conduct the verifications on the scope of the project. We are very much concerned, Milena didn't speak about that, but the municipality of Lisbon working with us is very worried about the effect of vendor lock-in. So you are subjected to a certain vendor that is forcing you to a certain type of service, and then if you want to switch vendor, you have to switch the system entirely. So we want to set the rules of the game so that in a certain way, you are free of your own vendor at a certain point. I'm speaking to the municipalities, and the municipalities will be able then to switch vendors if they prefer another service. So this is something that we are also bringing into the DNA of the way we are working. Another important aspect, I'm sorry, I'm running away from the slide, but I think there are many important things to speak, and I want to center your attention in myself rather than the picture. Feedback before submission. So whoever is submitting their own procedure will get feedback before actually submitting it to the municipality. So the platforms of the municipality will allow the possibility that you pre-upload your IFC and you will get information about how the information that you just submitted is correct for the requirements, and at the same time you'll get a pre-check of the regulations that the municipality will check you against. This is by no means a guarantee that you will be approved, but it's a guarantee that you will not get in trouble with this, and that in principle, okay? So that's one of the points I wanted to raise. And then looking at the picture I have in the slide, we have a keyword on the right-hand side, which is assisted verification. So again, I'm conveying my opinion. I don't believe in automatic verification. We are never going to replace a technician at the municipality, even with artificial intelligence. You cannot do that because two technicians in the same municipalities may have different opinions, and the AI will also have another opinion. So let's trust humans. So we believe that. So we believe in assisted verification, and we believe that the platform that is about to be made will cover all the things you have to check for at the municipality. Some of them will be automatic, some of them will be assisted, where you are taken to the place in the model that you should be looking at with the context of information that you need, and then you'll take your manual indication of what you think needs to be verified. Okay, and on that, I could go more deep into the way you are interacting. We are considering to use BCF. That's not implemented yet, the BCF, but many other things I will show already implemented in a prototype. So to keep going, or else I will stay here forever, but I'm controlling my time. We have a problem, not as big as Italy, but in Portugal in particular, we have, I think if I'm not mistaken, 308 municipalities. So we have 308 places where you have different documents that you're supposed to submit to the municipality, and you have different laws to abide to, because all of the laws are municipal. And at the municipal level, you have actually several layers of verification. There's the layer of the entire municipality, but then there are detailed plans for some regions where special things apply for those particular regions, and some of the details are so small they just apply to a quarter. Okay, so in that quarter, there's a quarter regulation that is a micro regulation that was created in the context of some preliminary urban submission that was made by an owner that wants to keep some kind of consistency in a development. So we were looking at a really big challenge. So I told you we were working in this for 4 years. We changed everything 5 months ago, okay? Basically everything. We threw everything, not to the garbage because there was a lot of assets in our minds, but we threw the platform entire to the garbage. Okay, so what we are doing, of course, I have to show this data. So we are creating a database to handle, for example, the regulations. And what I'm going to speak about first is the fact that we are digitizing the regulations according to, of course, and Nick mentioned before, I think you were referring to the RAISE methodology to classify the rules. We are doing all that in the project, and our Italian colleagues at the Brescia University and Fraunhofer Italy are doing a great job together with us in that work package in the project. So we're actually going through thousands of lines of clauses or rules that might be applied. It's a tedious job to some extent, but it needs to be done. And when it's done, it's done. So, and then we can analyze what is actually verifiable. So we are going to do other types of classification as well to assist us to be as automated as possible. But then what we are going to make is a platform. I hate the word platform. You'll understand why. But anyway, we are going to do a platform where it's web-based, and you have on one hand the rule editor. So you have you can edit the rules, so each municipality will be able to edit the rules. This added a very important challenge, and on the other side you will have the verificator, and it will handle the workflow where you handle also the interactions with the people submitting the procedure. So what you see here is a structure of our regulation database, which is another expression of what you saw in the previous slide, and then we will have clauses in each regulation that each regulation will have, of course, several clauses, and then each clause will have several rules that need to be identified. These rules will need to drink information from GIS or from BIM, and we are creating some namespaces where each project will have that all figured out, and then there will be a verification being made. And all of that will be put in the shape of a database that will be actually populated by the municipalities, but first they will be led by example by some regulations that we will digitize on our own, okay? So just keep going. So this is one of the very simple codes we created. I even present the same code in black and in white background. We had a meeting actually with the municipality of Lisbon with people that actually were educated about BIM, but they are working on the digital building permit situation all day. I mean, they are in the project, of course, and they are allowing them some time to this. And we were having a meeting, and we were really proud, and we said, okay, this will be the shape of our editor of rules. You will just need to code this very simple way. Look at that, it's so simple, the clause, and then we'll have some keywords that you can take, and you can digitize your own regulation. And we were so proud, and I thought, this is going to solve this. We are going to solve the problems of the world. But then one of the guys from the Lisbon municipality, we joke a lot about this with him, he said, and I pass to the next slide, that looks like the Matrix. I don't understand anything about that. Am I going to need to use that? And then we realized, okay, wrong strategy. We need to restart. Because if the person that was engaged with us became afraid, what will happen to the person that has no clue about what we're doing? So, and Tommy even used this figure of speech about the matrix, but he used it in a positive sense. I'm using it in a negative sense. But this was really important, so it was a changing moment for us. So with that being said, we moved to another layer. And I will use an analogy, but I don't want you to consider it as a bad analogy. I consider it a great analogy. When COVID came, my son was 6 years old. He was taking first grade. And when COVID came, he was actually learning to read, but he was at the end of, he was actually turning to the second grade almost. And he knew how to read. And so I registered him into courses to learn coding because, you know, I'm crazy about coding. You could imagine that. So one of the languages of coding that is very widespread in the world, some of you may know if you are younger parents than me or of my age, which is called Scratch. It's MIT Scratch. Probably many of you know. And MIT Scratch is an object-oriented language that is with the objective, sorry for the repetition, of teaching kids how to code. And actually, you can trick a kid into coding without actually thinking he's coding. Okay, that's what I did with my son. My son is not especially smart, he's like me, normal guy, average. So he could learn to code, and he's actually doing object-oriented programming because you're actually attributing to each entity the methods and the properties, and you're doing all those stuff that you do in complex coding. So we thought, let's trick the municipalities into thinking they are not coding while they are actually coding. So what we did is we picked up a platform that Google created. So everything that we are doing is open source, and we can scale it up. So this is not a problem. We are not depending on something that we don't have the code for. We are developing on top of a platform of Google, which is called Blockly. And Blockly allows you to create code just dragging some things, and you create if this, then that, and then okay, then not okay. Of course, some of the building blocks will have plenty of code behind them that we hard-coded them ourselves. So how to check the height of a building? You need to get the building. You need to get the place where the building is. You need to get the permission value. But we do that all on the back office. And then the person doing this code, remember, this is an editor of the regulation. This will be very straightforward. So this is what we are betting on. So the person will not see the right-hand side of the picture. The matrix is hidden from the municipality. So the municipality just sees that really neatly, and we'll provide so many examples with so many hard-coded ways to check the things, but general enough so that you can adapt to different situations, that we really believe that we are going towards 100% coverage of the regulations. because we will just keep coding new ways of the general procedure to verify height, verify a distance, verify perpendicular, verify in diagonal, verify if it covers, if it's part of, if the area has a minimum value. All of that will be embedded into IFC-based information, of course. I still have 5 minutes. So I want to be truthful. This is an old screenshot. We still didn't implement the graphical user interface for the new platform. So this is the old platform that we had that worked in a different way. But we manage our way also through the capacity to use openly available platforms. We were using SEOKit at the time. Now we will be using IFC.js. So we are using our interfaces based on also knowledge that is available on the community. So we could already at the time, with a completely different approach, much less scalable, we were doing verifications, and we had a front end that was providing us some very interesting stuff. Also, another interesting stuff that we really enjoy, and I have to give the credit to José Granja, who supervised a dissertation about the topic, was consistency of data. What are we accepting from the owner or from the architect that is submitting the project? What are we accepting? Do we accept that the IFC space as a quantity set that says, I have 24 square meters? I teach my students, when I'm teaching BIM, I teach them, you can fake it. You can just open the text file and you put 22, so you pay less taxes. So I explain them how to evade taxation. But our platform is actually, for each and every declaration you make in the model, if it's verifiable by the 3D information, we are actually going to around the property and measure, this is not 22, this is 24, okay? And also other things, just to change subject, other than data consistency, we are also filling some forms that are really dull for the municipalities. And the municipality of Lisbon said, Nobel Prize for you, because you are taking us so much work to fill the Statistics Institute form that seems to be really boring to submit to our National Statistics Institute. And they were complaining a lot about that. They were so happy when we showed this can be a button. They were really happy about that. So I'm keep going. Within the Czech project, we are also developing a glossary. So the University of Minho is responsible to put people to communicate with each other. The word platform is a word that people from different backgrounds face in a very different way. The acronym API doesn't mean much to many people. What is a property set? So there are many things that people actually don't know. So within our project and with our sister projects, Accord and DigiChecks, of course, we are sharing this. Everything that we are doing is completely open, and we are very friendly already with members of the other projects. So I don't think this will be a problem. They are really nice people. We are just following slightly different approaches here and there. And it's nice that we do it separately, because then we will just select best of best within each one. I think nobody will do a best platform. Everyone will be working for the same, and we'll figure out what's best. So the glossary has been a challenge, so we are making a lot of interviews, a lot of analysis, and we'll create a wiki where, at least within our project, we'll be able to speak the same language, because in the last personal meeting that we had, it was like crazy, people using the same word to mean completely different things, and you cannot speak with that. So I actually have 2 parts on my presentation, so I'm now going to the second part, and I have 2 minutes, but I will try to be quick. But now this thing is not helping me. Can we switch next slide, please? I blocked it. Oh, I'm blocked. So the second part, I want to speak about training in BIM. And for this part, we actually have another co-author, which is José Carlos Lino, who is the president of buildingSMART Portugal, but he was stuck in another room where he was in a very strong discussion. But I need to acknowledge him, because he was the father of much that we developed here. And why are we speaking about training? Why do we deserve the merit to speak about training? We do deserve it, in my opinion, because we started to teach BIM in a classroom in civil engineering in 2012. So this is a crappy picture of our crappy room with our very young students that now are leading BIM departments in major companies in the country. Actually, they are now leaders. And then we are also teaching since 2014 BIM to the overall market. And actually, in the buildingSMART group, most of the people that came are our former students together with us here in this event. And also, since 2019, we are teaching in the European Master BIM A+ towards BIM. And a bottom line is that I will not speak about this project. I'm not here to disseminate them necessarily, but the bottom line is we are teaching at the same time architects and engineers. This is really important. So we receive a very diverse background from very diverse cultures. And we have a significant heterogeneity in the audience. And this is a figure of speech that is related very much also to the world of building permits. We will have people with different ages, different background training, as I mentioned. They will be at different stages of their career all the time, even in our training, and they will have a completely different dexterity in being able to handle a computer. Sometimes they just use a tutorial, they learn everything by themselves, and others just want to know, where do I click next? This isn't working, why? And that goes into the last point, which is attitude. And attitude, surprisingly enough, it's a thing that is challenging for people that already think they know something and they refuse to learn. So those are the most difficult people. They think they know something. And those are the dangers, the most dangerous. They just go through our trainings and they don't give a crap about what we say. They just keep doing the same way they did because they thought they were so smart to begin with. So those are the most dangerous. That's my opinion. Okay, but I would just like to give you a few takeaways. I know I'm now 1 minute past my time, so I will try to be as quick as possible. So the first thing, and this goes in a general line, but I think we can also always look at this applied to building permits and how the municipalities should learn about this. So first, nobody needs to know everything. Nobody really. Even I am teaching it and I don't know. We always use a group of teachers to use a specialist on each area to teach. So nobody will really need to know everything. And actually, it's really the other way around. People need to keep being experts at what they were, and BIM or Open BIM is just another tool they have in their Swiss Army knife. Okay, so we are just populating your Swiss Army knife. I should have put a picture of a Swiss Army knife, sorry for that. So, and then this is also fundamental. As I speak to those people that I educated 10 years ago, they tell me, oh, Miguel, the people that we are receiving in our companies that come trained already in BIM, they don't even dream of the world before BIM. It's just BIM. That's just the way it is. And Tommy was saying that. So this is a matter, this is generational. It comes in their DNA. We are currently teaching BIM for students in our first grade. They came from high school. They still address me as an high school teacher, and I'm there teaching them about BIM and buildingSMART. And I told them I will be in this hotshot conference. Yeah, I was really proud to tell them that. So the transition is really just a matter of time. So I'm not too much worried about training the current people because this is just a wave, and the wave is taking everything. The time we will take to define the laws and the regulations and how things work, the generations will be just, I hate to say this because I'm also getting old, but that's life. But however, for the short term, and this is my last slide, we have a challenge. And also in the Czech project, we have this job to do. So at the time, what we think we will do, we still didn't figure it out. I wrote a very rough number, approximately in your 30s and upwards, you tend to be someone that was completely indoctrinated in the previous way of working. And below that, in 2023, probably you already were exposed at some age to something like BIM and Open BIM. So then what we need to do, following my previous indication, was let's train each position for what they need to know on a need-to-know basis. This will provide very short-term trainings on need-to-know basis, and you will adapt in this way. You don't need to know everything. And yeah, that's it. I apologize for the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Thank you very much, Milena. Really, you understand why I'm happy to be to work in this team. Probably we have such good resources, and of course, the most important, the best part is that they think differently each other. So this is what we need actually for create a really an appropriate guideline, let's say, guidance for regulators. One more time, is there any question? Even if we are over time, we are grabbing time to our coffee time. So, okay, please join us, write us, take part to the regulatory room activities, join us in the open house events, join us in every way, every time you have a stupid question, there is no stupid question for us. You call stupid question, we call it a requirement, and is something that is really we really need for our activity. Thank you very much, and that's it.